Hello, welcome back to Brown Belt Abroad, and thank you so much for tuning in today. So, I've gotten a lot of questions over the past year as my channel has been growing about how could they move to Australia? Like, what is the process? Like, what does it entail? And as someone who is not an expert in that space, I sort of kept quiet and thought, it would probably be best for them to get insight from people who might be more well versed in it than I am. But then I sort of felt like the least that I could do is share my story, and hopefully it will support you on your journey forward. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about ways to move to Australia, and of course I'll include my own in there. And yeah, if that's one of your aspirations, moving abroad, probably from America, I'm guessing. I think I have a lot of American followers, which is really great. Then continue watching and hopefully you discover a few gems. Okay, so I made sure that I did some research for this video just to make sure that I was up to date on all of the regulations here in Australia and that I wasn't giving you outdated information just based on like my own personal story. So I thought I would start off with like the most important thing to keep in mind as you're planning to move abroad to Australia, and that is being intentional about your why. I feel like this is even more important than anything else because the reality is that your problems will continue to follow you wherever you go. So if your intention in moving to Australia is to run away from the problems that currently exist in your life back home, I am here to tell you that they will follow you and they will arise and emerge in just different forms on different soil. And the best thing that you could probably do before even starting that process of fully moving is acknowledging the voids and the pain points in your life right now, and accepting them, cutting the cord from narratives that no longer serve your well-being, and stepping into a new chapter in your life. So healing is so integral, and of course it won't happen before you fully move, but just acknowledging that like there are wounds that might be pushing you towards leaving is an incredibly important part of your journey. So that way, when you come to Australia, you're in a space of acknowledging your pain, seeing it, accepting it, and healing. So you can continue your healing journey here in Australia and it won't give you that burdened feeling that you're probably having now. So that's, I believe, is the most important thing to keep in mind for as it pertains to moving to Australia. Number two are visas, of course, right? Like, how could you move abroad without actually having a visa? So personally, I was actually on a working holiday visa. So I did arrive in Australia as a professional athlete, but rather than going on the sports visa, which limits you to only playing your sport in particular, my aspirations were much deeper than just dribbling a basketball. And I wanted to network, I wanted to connect, I wanted to discover the deeper part of myself. So I was put on a working holiday visa. And I looked that up on the website and it is still in place. So the first working holiday visa costs $500. Wait, let me just double check that. Yes, I'm right. It costs $500. And this visa is specifically and solely for people who are between 18 to 30 years old. So the age range is pretty young. So if you fit within that age range, then you're quite lucky. All you need to do is actually just pay for the visa online and you're all set. This will allow for you to travel wherever you want throughout Australia for 12 months. And before those 12 months end, you'll probably have a clearer idea of whether you want to stay in Australia or not. And if you do, then you can apply for the second working holiday visa. So I'm just trying to look for the price, but I can't seem to find it. But I'm pretty sure it's probably just, again, $500 again. And this is in Australian dollars, AUD. So, of course, if you're in America, you'll be paying a lot less. Not a lot less, but you'll be paying less because the conversion rate currently, I think it's like, yeah, the US dollar is stronger. What I'm unsure about, but what I've known to be true in the past, is that in order to get the second working holiday visa, you have to work on a farm, I think, for a few months. I don't know if that's still in place because of COVID, but that might be something you want to just double check. And that's basically like if you don't want to work on a farm, then you might want to just make sure that that's not something that's compulsory to getting the second working holiday visa. Now, something really cool has happened, I do think, because of like COVID. They've introduced a third working and holiday visa. So they never had this like when I moved here ages ago. So I think that's really wonderful. So you can literally live here for 3 years without having to jump through hoops. And if you're someone who, because I know I had a subscriber who said that she got a job offer, but she needs a visa. If you're someone who's gotten a job offer, I would just jump on the working and holiday visa. And by the time you're at 3 years of working there, like they should be okay with sponsoring you. So that's the next one I was going to move into now, like getting employer sponsorships. Okay, so there's a few, and I'm going to be looking at my notes for this because I don't have this memorized. So the first is a temporary skill shortage visa, which is $1,300 AUD again. And this is a temporary visa that employers can use to sponsor someone who's considered a skilled worker. So don't be daunted by the word skilled. If you have a degree, you're considered a skilled worker. If you have that, then you've already passed the test. And like I said, I highly recommend starting with the working holiday visa if you're in that age range. Building some rapport with the business that you're working for, and usually you're able to work out an agreement with them to get your employer sponsored visa. For example, they can cut out the cost of it on a fortnightly, which is called bi-weekly in America, or every 2 weeks. I don't even know what it's called. I just know fortnightly because I've lived in Australia for so long. They can cut that out of your pay every 2 weeks, and you can just pay it off that way. So once you get in the door, it's an easier process to work things out and get like long-term visas. Okay, so the next one is skilled employer sponsored regional provisional visa. So it's quite similar to the skill shortage visa, but this is 3 years. Oh, this is 5 years, but you do have to live in a regional area. And again, I wouldn't be too worried about that because at this point, I think Perth, even though it's like this hustling and bustling city, is considered regional, which is really funny. So you could literally just like live in a city that's just deemed as regional by the Australian government for 5 years and have a fun job and travel. Once the borders open, you can fly to Bali for like $150 or something. Okay, and so the last visa that I wanted to share was the skilled independent visa. And the reason why I wanted to share this is because you actually don't need an employer sponsor for this, but you have to be invited by the Australian government to apply. Now, don't get freaked out by this. You kind of know that how could the government apply or invite you to apply if they don't know of you? Well, you just simply click on a link and request or fill out an expression of interest, and then they'll either accept it or deny it. And if they accept it, that means you're invited, and then you can go ahead and apply for that independent visa and live in Australia. It doesn't say for how long, but I'm assuming that it's quite a long time. And this is $4,000 for 1,000 Australian dollars. So again, do the conversion rate on that and you'll be right. Okay, so now you've gotten your visa, right? You've probably gotten the work in the holiday visa, which is the easiest one to get. And you kind of need to do a few things before you can actually start applying for work. Like you can probably, I think you'll have to do this by the time you get here. So when you get here, you know, it might be your first few weeks. This is your time to really set some things into action and set some things in place for yourself. The first is to get a tax file number. So that's like your social security number. You can get that by going to the Department of Immigration. They'll be able to direct you in the right to the correct contact. Everything is on the internet, so it really isn't difficult to go through the Department of Immigration website, so you should be fine. The next thing you need is a superannuation number. So this is like your 401k in the US. So this is your retirement fund, and you're probably thinking, why do I need that? Well, it's compulsory, so you need to get a superannuation fund. I will include a link of some different businesses that a lot of Australians use to set up their super fund. It's pretty easy. You just fill out a form, and they what you do when you actually get a job is you give them your super information. So you just give them the name and your super number, and you're good. Of course, you need an Australian bank account. You need a bank account for anything. This is super easy. Like, all you need to do is go to one of the local banks. There is ANZ, which is just ANZ, but Australians say Z. There's Westpac. There's Commonwealth Bank. I know I've heard some funny things about them. So, there's also like Beyond Bank, which is more focused on the community. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of the banks that was quite similar to this, where it was more for the people. There's Bendigo Bank, which is also like kind of more community based. So those are a few banks that you can check out. Again, all you have to do is walk in. You do need an address. Yeah, you need an address. And that's it. You can set up your bank account. Okay, so the next thing that I would highly suggest is getting letters of support while you're still back at home. And the reason for this is because if you just have them as references, a lot of employers like to call people, and if you're like back at home in the US, like they can't call them, right? So you need letters of support. Essentially, it's just a letter of your employer from your employer stating like what you excelled at work, what you did, what your roles and responsibilities were, and then maybe just have them include their email address. The other thing is your LinkedIn page. You know, like that's quite important, right? Like it's like your digital resume. Make sure you clean that up. Get people to recommend you for some of the skills that you feel like you excel in. Just make sure that page is tidy, because a lot of employers will be looking at that if they're considering you. Okay, so my last recommendation for you as you prepare to move to Australia is to save money, because you need some safety you know, while you're living here, because you never know like what's going to happen. Of course, you want to make sure that you get maybe international like medical coverage, at least for the first year until you set yourself up, or for 6 months. Those basic things, because you're going to be paying like the full amount because you're not a permanent resident or a citizen. And so you don't have the benefits of Medicare, which is pretty good here. So I just looked up the cost of living. Currently in 2021, for a single person, it's just over 1,300 Australian dollars. That fluctuates depending on where you are. I would say if you're in Sydney, it's probably higher because of rent. In Perth, it would be on par, like rent would be lower, but things cost more here. because of the mining boom, which is already over, I feel like. But anyways, so just make sure you have like a couple grand saved up. Those are the most important things. I really hope that, some of the suggestions that I've shared have been helpful for you. Like I said, I feel pretty lucky because I came as an athlete, so I had other people managing this stuff for me, but at some point I did have to do it myself. And I really had to, I just had to navigate like this crazy terrain on my own. And so I hope that just sharing some what seems like simple advice, but if you never heard of it before, it's, it's like gold. So I hope that this really helps you in your journey. And I wish you the best of luck. Just know that nothing is impossible. So if it feels challenging in the beginning, it does get easier. Just continue to be imaginative and think of new ways of being able to move here. I shared some of the easier ways because I really want like the barrier to entry to be as simple as possible for you. You don't need to complicate it. You can do a more complex visa or whatever like that. Or whatever, at a later point, but just make your journey easy here. Don't make it complicated because you want to get like your citizenship, because you need to come here and see like if you actually like it first, right? Like you might not actually like it as much as you think, or you might love it and be like, yes, okay, I'm ready. So yeah, I'm sending you a lot of love and light and all the best on your journey. Be well.